All right, everybody, welcome to the Going Ballistic podcast. Back here with Jason. How you doing, man?
Good. Good to be back.
Good. So we were talking to you last week, and you mentioned building a crazy sandblast cabinet. How are you out on that project? You still working on it? Is it done? What's going on?
All right, so the sandblasting cabinet's done. I have sandblasted all the parts, and where I am now is I need to build a tank to soak the metal in for at least 30 minutes to an hour, according to their instructions.
Okay.
An acetone, brake cleaner, or simple green, or something like that. I did do a test spray this last weekend after I sandblasted, so I took some Cerakote, didn't mix any activator in it, and started practicing spraying all the different nooks and crannies. And I got to tell you, that inside of that upper receiver is pretty tough. But I think I got it figured out with one of my airbrushes. I was able to get in there and kind of do a pretty even coat on the inside without building up too much on the outside. And I think from the videos I watched, that's where a lot of guys were failing, is they were using a bigger spray gun to do the whole thing. And when you do that, it just puts too much buildup where they come together, and then your holes don't line up properly. So I think I got all my corks worked out, but we'll find out once I get this tank built, get them soaked up, and I'm going to go for it. We'll see what happens.
So the issue you're saying is the spraying of the Cerakote in the upper, not the sandblasting?
Correct. Yeah, the sandblasting was a piece of cake.
Was it? Okay. And it's like after you sandblast it, you need to like handle it carefully, I imagine, right? That's what you're saying. The tank for the acetone cleans everything off.
Yeah, because it just, your fingerprints or any dirt smudge or anything like that just immediately shows up on it.
I imagine. Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, Cerakote's paint, right? I mean, that's kind of what it is, a little glorified paint.
Yeah, I gotta say it's really cool though. I don't know all the ins and outs in it, but as you're spraying it, it evaporates really fast and kind of turns into like a clay material, so it doesn't run very easily.
That's cool.
Yeah, really cool. I was worried about, it running like normal paint, and
Hmm.
so long as you're caking it on there, which I did in one spot, and I learned real quick not to do that. But yeah, so far so good, man. It's pretty cool stuff.
Awesome. So, what else is new with you? I mean, that's a big project, but anything else new? Been shooting it all
No,
lately?
no, no, I haven't been
No.
shooting.
Come on, man. We have like a weekly assignment we need to have. We need to go shooting. I went shooting. I went hunting again. Popped another deer. That was cool. Shot it with a 6.5 Creedmoor again, and I was using Nosler AccuBond. Does Nosler make the AccuBond? It's the white-tipped AccuBonds, and holy smokes! Shot a doe because I was just going for some meat, and dropped where she stood. It was pretty amazing. Probably about 95 yards away from where I was at, and she kept turning the other direction, so I wasn't getting a good shot. And she was about to go over this little rise. I couldn't see her. I was kind of getting nervous, and she kept turning around back and forth. And finally, she turned right at an angle where she was quartering away from me. I'm like, that's the only one I'm going to get. So right in the kill zone, maybe a little back edge of the kill zone. So my plan was to kind of, to go at an angle through the chest. And like an off button, man. I've never seen that happen through just the heart and lungs, because normally they have fight left in them.
Right.
They might want to run or something like that. But she just crump right where she's at, flipped on the side. I think the legs may have kicked real quick, and she was done. And so I actually waited it out a little bit because I wanted to try and get a couple deer just to fill the freezer up. I'm like, well, it's freezing cold out here. The meat's not going to go bad. I'm going to wait like a half hour and just see what I can do. And she's down, so I didn't feel bad about having to put her out of her misery or anything. Nothing came by, so I went out and checked her out, and I had no exit hole. So for a 140 grain bullet going, I don't know, probably 2,500 feet a second, no exit hole in a tiny Tennessee deer, I was actually really surprised. Some of the guys I talked to had never seen that before. They, normally it just barrels right through. So I assume it must have just been the angle going to the shoulder, but used that Barrett Fieldcraft again, and love the gun for hiking around with. And I mean, it shoots great, super accurate, but it's almost too light for me to shoot. You know what I'm talking about when you get a gun that's so light that it actually is hard to hold stable?
Yeah.
It just surprised me how much I had to worry about the front and the back of the gun. I'm looking through the scope, and I'm out of practice. I mean, I don't go shoot as much as I should anymore. And so just watching the reticle move around, kind of going, oh my gosh, this little thing is so nimble that any movement by me at all, is going to throw it off. But anyway, got another deer. That was fun. Might go out again this weekend. I think I'm going to bring a Tika 308 out this weekend. I have some Barnes bullets all loaded up and ready to go. I want to see how the Barnes can perform on a deer. Because my biggest concern, I love Barnes bullets for hunting. I think my personal favorite, honestly. But my concern is that sometimes they don't open up like they're supposed to. I mean, when they open up, they're the best, most consistent opening, performing bullet, in my opinion. It's just, they're amazing. But you get such a small animal, like, again, a Tennessee deer. I mean, I picked this one up. I grabbed both sets of feet, picked it up, and flicked it up to the back of my truck. It was just a one-man lift, to get it up there. Not even field dress, so still had the guts in it. I was able just to pick it up and throw it. So they're not that heavy. So I'm a little concerned. So we'll see how it goes. I have the Barnes TTSX. That's the tipped one. It's supposed to expand a little bit better. And I'll report back to you if I get a chance to go out and I get a deer, if I can recover the bullet at all, or what the exit wound looks like. Do you ever use Barnes bullets?
No, I usually use the Fusion for the hunting rounds.
Man, that is the best economical hunting bullet I think you can get. Those Fusions.
And they
shoot great. The packaging is horrible. The packaging, to me, makes it look like some flashy orange. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Is it still the orange, shiny box? I mean, to me, it just looks like it's marketing crap. Sorry, Federal. But when I see that, I'm like, oh, I don't want that. That looks like an energy drink, not, ammo. I think, who does the packaging right? I think Hornady does it right. That matte, brown cardboard with, the embossed stuff on it, I think that looks classic. That looks awesome. But that Fusion just looks gimmicky. I don't know if I'd want that. But yeah, you're right. They shoot. I grabbed my dad's old 30-06 one time just trying to zero it in. And all I had around was the Fusion. I'm like, oh, here we go. Some super overhyped Fusion stuff. And holy smokes, it shot amazingly well out of that rifle. And I hear nothing but good results. So there you go, people. You guys want some just economical, works in all the guns that I've heard people use it in. That Federal Fusion is a great go-to bullet. But if you're going to load or you want to try and get the best bullet possible, man, Barnes are the way to go. I even like Barnes for tactical applications. I've tried to get some of the police that I train every once in a while. I still train local cops just for free, just because I like to make friends with local law enforcement, help them out. I've shown them what the Barnes can do when they're doing things like shooting at glass or stuff like that. The Barnes bullet just holds together, in my experience, just so much better than the other bullets. Because have you ever shot through glass, Jason?
No, I haven't.
All right, so for shooting through glass, there is no trick, despite what people try and tell you. There's no well, if it's angled like this, you got to aim this far to the left. No, that's bull crap. Maybe it works some of the time, but it doesn't work all the time. And what I used to do with sniper students is we would take old windshields. So you'd get to the glass shops that get the old windshields they take out of the cars.
Right.
So they have a crack in it, so they'll give them to you for free because they don't have to recycle them now. So you could actually just drive down to the glass shops and be like, hey, can I have 5 windshields, please? I'll load your truck up. But you can take them out, and we actually had a 2x4 frame set up, and you could set the windshield in the frame. So the bottom went in the bottom of the frame, and it leaned back, so it was about the angle of a car. And the idea was we could shoot through it like it was car glass for the law enforcement military snipers. And we'd put a paper target about where maybe a driver would sit. And you'd shoot, and you would have one round go exactly where you aimed. The next round would go an inch away from where you aimed. And then the third round, now fresh glass, you'd move it. It was saying the third time you try it, the bullet will go a foot away from where you aimed. It is inconsistent how the bullets perform when they go through glass. We would even take just regular residential pane glass and put that up and shoot targets and vary the targets from a foot behind the glass to maybe 10 feet behind the glass if they're on the other side of a room. And if the target is not within a few feet of the glass, you cannot guarantee a hit on the target. You just can't. At 10 feet, there's no way you can guarantee the hit will happen. So there's your advice. You want to stay safe behind glass. If there's only one bullet coming at you, get as far away from the glass as possible. Because what will happen is that jacket separates off the core when it hits the glass. Sometimes. Sometimes it won't. So we'll actually find pieces of the jacket. You can actually sometimes find the entire copper cup of a jacket stuck in the paper inches away from where the bullet went. So sometimes the glass just shreds it and it goes in different directions. Sometimes it holds together. So the best experience that the law enforcement snipers have is using bonded bullets, because then at least the jacket's bonded to the core. But my argument is, why try and worry about how bonded the jacket is to the core if you don't have a jacket and a core? If you just shoot a Barnes bullet, it's all one solid chunk of copper. So
Right.
I don't care how like nasty it gets deformed, at least it's still going to be flying that direction. And the deformation is not going to cause that much of a like aerodynamic issue as it goes, maybe 10 feet away. Not near as much as separating the bullet into multiple pieces. So if you got a chance, try those Barnes out. They're nice. I really like them, especially for reloading. So we're getting some comments coming in already for people that are following along. Jason and I are on Facebook Live again. This is the second podcast we've done this. Man, I got great feedback from the last podcast. I don't know if you saw the comments, but I said maybe people like story time, and I started sharing some stories, and I think people liked that one. Unfortunately, I didn't prepare any stories for tonight, so maybe we'll have to I don't know why I brought it up then. I just backed myself into a corner. But I've had plenty of people that think that we should host a Kleckner garage night and just sit around and drink beers and tell stories. Yeah, that sounds fun, but I don't think either one of us want to give up our garages for that. Sorry, guys. Maybe that's what this is. Maybe this is your Tuesday night garage night. So Tanner asks, are the heat shield tipped Hornady rounds as groundbreaking as they say? I just bought some Hornady Precision Hunter 308 173 grain for my deer hunt this weekend. No, they're not. I don't think they are anyway. Now, I'm a big fan of Hornady rounds. I think you guys know that. I consider Steve Hornady a friend of mine. So I don't want to say anything too bad, but I want to be honest with you guys too. I think they're awesome rounds. I think the ELD Target or Match, or they call them, and the ELD Hunter, they're really, really, really great rounds. The problem is, I think the heat shield tip might be a marketing push. Sorry, Hornady. I think that the tip just happens to be different. I don't think it's really happening. Have we ever talked about a ladder test, Jason?
Yes.
All right. So in ladder test, what you can do to try and see which rounds are which, you can take different color Sharpie markers, and you can take your cartridges, and you can use the Sharpie marker, and you can color around the ogive, the curve of the bullet. Okay? So you can color around the sides of the bullet with different color Sharpie markers for your groups. Shoot your groups, and you can go down on the paper, and you can see the circles in different colors from the Sharpie. So you can do one group red, one group blue, one group green, one group black, and you can go down there and you can see your three or five red circles, your 3 or 5 blue circles. So it's really kind of a cool way to mark your shots. And I'm only bringing that up is the heat that the round is experiencing isn't burning off the Sharpie. And I would imagine that if there was any heat at all, it would burn off the Sharpie of a bullet faster than it would melt a plastic tip on the bullet. I mean, I'm just completely presuming here, but it doesn't affect that at all. And of anything that I've ever seen recovered, even of bullets that have glanced or grazed, the tip looks like it's in good shape. So I really don't think it's happening. I think what's happening is the difference between these new Hornady ELD rounds and the previous rounds they did is they changed to a secant ogive from a tangent ogive. So we've talked about that before, I think. The tangent ogive is the more common ogive, and the ogive means the curve of the bullet. So in my book, I talk about how it's determined, I'm trying to do the shape here. The tangent ogive is not so sleek. It's not like a straight cone, right? It comes out and it's a little fatter as it narrows up to the tip. So the bulge or the corners are a little further forward on the bullet. Now, that's not as aerodynamic as a secant ogive. A secant ogive, the curve is a little further back. It's a little more streamlined, and those bullets can be longer, like the burger bullets. Now, you would think, well, why doesn't everyone use a secant ogive if it's slicker? It's more aerodynamic. Well, the problem is they don't work as well in all guns. So those, burger bullets, for example, are great bullets as long as you tailor them to your gun. You have to figure out exactly how much jump you're going to have for the free bore. You're going to have to figure all that stuff out because they're very sensitive to that free bore jump. They'll pop out and maybe not be perfectly aligned in the rifling and therefore give you bad results. So if you're a manufacturer that's making ammo in a box that you want people just to walk into Cabela's and pick up and work in their hunting rifle, you don't want those bullets. Yes, they're more aerodynamic, but they're too sensitive on exactly which gun they're tailored for. So instead, you want to use that older, not quite as aerodynamic tangent ogive, which is not sensitive to freeboard jump. So it works pretty darn good in everybody's rifle versus perfect in just one or two types of rifles. So Hornady, I think, okay, maybe it is the tip, I don't know, but I think it's more of it looks like they went to a secant ogive. They went to the more aerodynamic shape, and I'd imagine it's harder as a marketing pitch to say the shape of these bullets is better than our old bullets. Like, you don't want to say that, right? Because it's not like the other bullets are bad. Yeah. So sorry, Tanner, for the long answer, but I think that's what's going on. The answer is I think they're great bullets. I'm not sure I buy into the fact that the tips are melting. I don't buy that at all. I do like the idea that the tips are harder, though. I don't know about you guys. Jason, you ever shoot a ballistic tip bullet with the plastic tips?
Yes.
You ever drop one or have to load one a couple times and then you end up boogering the tip up real bad?
No.
Oh, I've done that. You drop a bullet or it doesn't feed quite right or you feed the same bullet a few times. You can actually booger the tip pretty bad. And so I like the idea that Hornady has that harder, plastic in there so it doesn't, deform as easily. I think that's a good idea. I mean, why not do that? I don't even know if the deformation really matters much. I mean, if you look at the tips of standard hollow point bowtail bullets, like the Sierras and things like that, they're not consistent at all. That little opening in the front, and they shoot just fine. So I'm not sure it really matters. But anyway, James, Ranger leads the way. Yes, first bat, best bat. Of course there is. That's why they numbered it number one, James. They didn't number them by accident. Eston says, can we hear more if you're not cheating, you're not trying stories? I don't know, man. That caused, I got a few people a little cranky about that one. I will next time, guys. I'm sorry for this time. I just had a crazy day. I did not prepare any stories for this time, but I will try and have a story for you next time. Joe says, why are Barnes bullets better than Berger? I don't necessarily think they are. I think you're going to go target shooting. Bergers are better. They really are. Matter of fact, to be honest, my Barnes solid copper bullets don't group as well as other bullets. They just don't. They don't shoot as accurately for me. But for hunting, I like them a lot better. One, I don't have lead all through the meat. I'm not worried about lead poisoning, but I'm just worried about having to deal with a bullet that broke into different pieces. I think they perform better. But you want to target shoot Bergers, or at least if you're going to go Barnes, go with some of their match burners. That's a standard lead core bullet that does a little better for precision or accuracy. Brandon asks, what would I consider to be the best round for shooting in long-range shooting matches? Whatever you've got. I mean, whatever you have and you practice with is better than nothing. But the Berger hybrids, and the word hybrid comes from the blend of those two ogives I was talking about. So they figured out how to make it partially tangent ogive and partially secant ogive. So it's not sensitive to the gun, but it's still aerodynamic. Those things are amazing. If you're looking just to buy something off the shelf that's going to work in almost all guns, you can't go wrong with Federal Gold Medal Match. That's like the industry standard for just the best factory ammo you can get. So James wonders if I finished the audiobook. No, I've actually had to start over because of audio problems. I'm a few chapters in. I was going to try and get a chapter 2 done today, and I didn't. So sorry, James. And William asks, what are my thoughts on shooting AR-500 steel targets? Do I use them or whatever? Yeah, I shoot steel all the time. I prefer to shoot steel. That's the most fun way to shoot. I think you get instant feedback and that you can see the impact real easy. And you've been shooting steel targets, Jason. How's that going?
No, I haven't actually. We had a discussion about it, and I was asking for recommended distances for pistol shooting and rifle shooting. We were talking about the different hardness of steels, of course. And we started getting that discussion. But no, I have not actually purchased a steel target yet.
Okay, so for pistol, I don't like shooting a steel target closer than 10 yards. That's actually getting pretty close if you're shooting standard bullets. If you're shooting frangible, I can put the gun up against the target, really, or I'm overstating it, but I don't mind. For rifle, most targets you really shouldn't be shooting with closer to 100 yards. Even with a really strong target, you're just going to be over abusing the target. And I guess it does depend on your round. You don't shoot any green tip or steel penetrators or stuff like that. But so did you see, Jason? Go ahead. What's your question?
You watch some of these competitions, and they're blasting those things pretty close.
Yeah.
The steel target.
They're usually not much closer than 10 yards, though, are they, with handguns?
That's hard to tell watching the video, but I would imagine that they're just shooting. Well, I don't know because I've never done a competition. Are they just shooting full metal jacket practice rounds that explode, or
out of their handguns? Yeah, they shoot whatever they want. Some guys shoot bare lead bullets, but yeah, full metal jackets, hollow points. A lot of competition shooters use hollow points for shooting. You can get, actually, believe it or not, a little more accuracy out of hollow points, out of pistol rounds. and the flatter front to a hollow point bullet allows you to load the bullet out a little bit longer for the magazine. So you can do hollow points, jacketed. I love using the Rainier bullets. They're not quite jacketed. It's called a copper wash. So it's like copper plated lead. So it's so thin you can take your fingernail and just like squish it. But it's enough coating to keep it clean in your barrel, but it's really soft, so it really squishes into the rifling. So I really love those. But yeah, I mean, 10 yards away, you're fine. Wear, eye protection. You'll every once in a while catch a little piece of metal. Closer than that, I think you're asking for trouble. Maybe 7 yards might be the closest. I think I'm splitting hairs here, but you just got to be careful with steel. Now, the paper targets, they'll shoot real close. But putting a steel target even closer than that, I don't even know what the challenge really is to try and hit it. Because most steel targets are of a generous size. Even a 6-inch plate, 7 yards isn't much of a challenge for a competition guy.
I guess my big question, not ever doing it, I'm assuming just all bullets will explode when they hit the steel target if it's hard enough. Other than like the green tipped or steel.
Yeah. As long as the steel is able to defeat the bullet, as long as the steel is stronger than the bullet, it'll explode. The problem is when you start shooting it too close to the pistol, you're not going to hurt the steel target. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to have the risk of crap coming back at you. So yeah, I don't think a pistol is going to hurt a proper steel target. But with rifles, you're just going to abuse the target. So you'll actually start tacoing. You'll start bending and folding a target back. Guys shooting 50 cal, even at a 500-yard target, after a while, even if it's hanging on chains, which means it's not absorbing all the energy, it's giving a chance to move, it'll still, after quite a few rounds, start getting curved, so you have to turn the target around. So it'll last. Yeah, you shoot something like a 7mm Magnum at 50 yards, you might be burning a hole through the target. It really will. I mean, green tip will burn through targets. Now, green tip at 300 yards will just put little pock marks in the targets. So it depends. It's really about velocity. If you keep a bullet under 3,000 feet a second, you're probably going to be okay. So if you just think about 3,000 feet a second, it's not so much the diameter, even the hardness of the bullet. Just after a while, it just starts burning through. I mean, some of the most armor-piercing properties I've ever seen in a bullet is actually Lapua. I think they call it lock base. It's their lead, not training, but it's their lead full metal jacket bullet. And that stuff in 338 sizzles through steel targets. I mean, at 100 yards. So you take an AR-500 steel target, shoot it with a 338 Lapua, but it's the lead bullet, not an armor-piercing bullet, but it's just the Lapua lock base. You can walk up and stick your pinky in the hole. I mean, it is a perfect, like, plasma torch-looking cut right through the steel. And I didn't believe it when I first heard about it, and I ended up seeing the targets and doing it. And a friend of mine actually contacted Lapua and said, "Hey, did you know that your lead bullets are actually like insanely armor piercing?" And I said, "Oh yeah, we've seen that too." And it's just because that bullet is going fast enough when it hits the target, it's willing to sizzle right through. So anyway, I hope that answers the questions about the steel targets. So Jason, we need to get you out shooting. We need to get you some steel targets, and we need to get you out to the range to get some experience on your gun.
Yes. I know. As you know, I start these projects where I'm now Cerakoting and building another AR, and it just eats up my weekends when I'm into it. But I enjoy it. I mean, this whole Cerakote thing has been a cool process, and the striping that I'm trying to do, nailed it on a piece of cardboard. So super pumped on that. So once I get this built, then
what
I
is
get
the
out
stripe? Oh, the striping. Gotcha. The pattern.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
So it's just a very fine. It's not a definitive like stripe. It's just kind of smoked in there. Everything I had envisioned, it's kind of coming to fruition. So once it's built, then I have no choice but to go shooting, right? I got to make sure it works.
Yeah, you do, of course. So speaking of shooting and new projects, I got a care package in from Brownells.
You got your Glock makeup lower.
I got the whole gun.
Oh,
I
nice.
have, lower slide barrel, upper parts kit, lower parts kit, and even a magazine. I have everything I need to make I'm using quote fingers here for people that are just listening, 80% Glock handgun. And so I'm still writing the article and I'm breaking it down between you want to build mostly Glock or none of the parts being Glock or kind of my choice. So I'm doing 3 different builds of part lists for you so you can build whichever one you want to do. But once I was going through and making that list, I decided Well, I already have everything figured out on what I want for my build, so I'll just get it all in. And sure enough, the box came in. I opened it up, and I need to take nice pictures and share it. And I'll let you guys know the entire process. So my next podcast, I will start sharing more what parts I used and how the process is going. What the first thing I need to do is make the lower. But yeah, it's all here, man. I have a gun in a box that came to my house, and I think it's kind of cool. Now I have an FFL, so I can get guns to my house all the time. So here's my shameless plug for Rocket FFL. If you guys want your FFL, you can get one. You can actually just have guns come straight off the internet, straight to your door, like machine guns and silencers and whatever you want. It's actually kind of cool. But this one was neat because it came to me as an individual, not as an FFL. And just straight in the mail, right from Brownells, open it up, and there's everything I need. So it's kind of cool. So speaking of Rocket FFL, Jason, where are you at in your progress to get your FFL?
All right, so I've actually taken a step back, and I am towards the final paperwork part of my LLC. And we've already done the name search. I'll pronounce the name once we actually get it all done.
Okay.
But once the LLC's established, then yeah, I'm ready to go forward with the FFL, finish the application, and do all that.
Okay, so you're still figuring out how you're going to form the company.
Yeah, so I actually started it last week. Didn't like exactly the way the paperwork was drawn up, so started doing my own homework. And I'm going to end up doing it just through the Arizona Corporation Commission through their e-file, which is pretty simple to do.
Okay.
So my goal, which of course, as anybody who works full-time somewhere, is hard to just get over there and get stuff done. Unfortunately, I always have fires to put out at my shop and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it's been a kind of a painstaking process to get it done, but it's heavy on my mind, man. I really want to get this done and get it going.
Yeah, it's about time, man. You can start getting guns shipped straight to you. So I've actually sent quite a few people to the distributor that I like the most at Lipsy's, because I hear a lot of guys say, "Oh, I got a home-based FFL. I can't get set up with any distributors because they only want a retail storefront." That's not true. If you use Rocket FFL, Lipsy's guarantees they'll sign you up. So you get signed up with Lipsy's, you set up your account, and I literally just go through and browse. Oh, I'd like that gun, and I click it, add it to the cart, and click checkout, and they keep all my payment information saved. So I literally just click buy, and they do like Amazon Prime shipping. So 2-day free shipping pops at my door, whatever guns I wanted. It's actually kind of cool. So I just had a guy do that a couple days ago, and Lipsy's, forwarded like an email. Hey, thanks for the referral. Yeah, of course. You guys are helping, the Rocket FFL customers out, so I appreciate it. So, yeah, man, I had a question about Coriolis Effect. Now, didn't we talk about this in an earlier podcast, Jason?
It was early on, like one of the first 4 or 5 that we did when we started my AR build back when it was just recording podcast. We were actually going through sections of your book, and we covered it then.
Gotcha. So just because I've had a couple questions about it lately, do you mind if I just briefly mention it again?
Oh, no, it's good to probably mention it again later and later. It's just one of them things that I don't think about very much. So.
And you shouldn't. So that's step 1 of the Coriolis Effect is stop worrying about it, everybody. Seriously, stop worrying about the Coriolis Effect, okay? Until you can shoot a 1-minute group at 1,000 yards, stop worrying about the Coriolis Effect. See, the problem is all these different effects that we have on the bullet are all additive. So that means you can have the wind blow you a certain amount, the Coriolis or Ovilus Effect can add to another amount. They can all add or stack onto each other. So yeah, I know it matters, but if you're already missing 2 minutes of angle because you're making a bad wind call, and you missed another minute of angle on top of that because you jerked the trigger, you're now 3 minutes off the target. Worrying about a half-minute shift because of Coriolis, I guess it matters, but I don't know. Focus on what you can control first. I'm breaking out a copy of my book because I did the math already in my book, so might as well read what I put in here for the math when I give the examples. So here's the way to think about it. So first, the Coriolis Effect technically only refers to the side-to-side change that we have, so the horizontal change. The Ovilus Effect is the vertical change. Okay, so we'll just lump them all together as Coriolis because that's what people like to do, but technically there's a difference. So the 2 effects are kind of opposite depending on where you are in the world and how they work. So the Coriolis effect only affects the side to side, the horizontal shift that your bullet is going to have. Okay? And it only matters what your latitude is. It does not matter which direction you're shooting. Okay? So if you are at the equator, there's going to be very little effect. And if you're near one of the poles, there's going to be a lot more effect. Okay? So it's kind of like the idea that you're spinning. It's the gyroscopic kind of effect. So in the northern hemisphere, the bullets are always going to drift to the right. And the southern hemisphere, they're always going to go to the left. That has nothing to do with water going down a drain or anything like that. It just has to do with, maybe the same cause, but it's the Earth actually spinning. So it should make sense that the closer you are to the pole, the more of an effect it's going to have because you're actually spinning more at the pole. The closer you are at the equator, the less spinning or rotating you have, and the more just kind of traveling around the Earth that you have. So the further up you are in latitude, regardless of the direction you're shooting, north, south, east, or west, your bullet is always going to go to the right. So here's some math for you. So, for example, if you were shooting in Mexico at 20 degrees north latitude, which is pretty close to the equator, a 175 grain 308 bullet will only drift about 1.5 inches to the right at 1,000 yards. 1.5 inches, guys. Okay? So, yeah, a minute of angle at 1,000 yards is 10 inches. So just remember that. Now, if you're shooting in Alaska at 65 degrees north latitude, which is obviously closer to the pole, your bullet is going to drift about 4 inches to the right at 1,000 yards. So not even a half a minute of angle. So yes, it matters, but not that much. So if you're at that level, great, start keeping track of this. Now, the beauty of this is you should just know ahead of time what latitude you're going to be shooting at, and you can just learn what that latitude is for your area. Now, if you're always staying like in your state for your target shooting and hunting and stuff like that, you could probably just ignore it, or at least just learn it and remember it's going to be there, because it's going to be the same every time, no matter which way you shoot. You know, again, you're going to be probably off on your wind call more than 4 inches at 1,000 yards when you're first learning. So at least you can learn what it's going to be. If you're going to travel to a new area, you can look up and figure it out there. Now, the vertical effect, where the bullet's going to hit higher or lower, like I said, is actually called the Ovilus Effect. That also has to do where you are with your latitude, but it's the opposite. The closer you are to the equator, the more of an effect this has. So the Ovilus effect has to do with the angular momentum, kind of like centrifugal force of the Earth spinning around. And as you can imagine, at the poles, you're not spinning around near as much. So you don't have as much centrifugal force. Where at the equator, you're going to have a ton of centrifugal force because you're not only a bigger diameter as you're spinning around, but the speed at which you're going is a lot faster. And this one matters the direction you're shooting. So it does affect that. So if you're shooting east, it's going to impact high. If you're shooting west, your bullet's going to impact low. And straight north and south is zero effect, regardless of your latitude. And the further you get towards east or west, the more of an effect it has. So it's gradual. It's completely full on east and west, and it's less of an effect the closer you get to north or south. And again, most at the equator. So I've heard some people, there's actually a video out there where people talk about here's how the Coriolis effect works. It's actually the Earth spinning and the target when you're shooting east, because we all should know that the Earth is spinning to the east, right? That's why the sun rises in the east, is actually, the Earth's spinning that way. So when you're shooting straight east, you're kind of pointing the direction the Earth is spinning. And I've heard some people say, well, when you shoot the bullet, the target is actually rotating further away and down from you, and that's why the bullet hits high. No, there's no way the target is moving that much to be able to drop out of the way of the bullet. What it is it's actually the centrifugal acceleration or the angular acceleration of the bullet that's causing it to seem like gravity has less of an effect, so it doesn't drop as much, and the opposite is true. So let's recap that real quick, because I said a bunch of confusing stuff. The horizontal component, it always goes to the right in the northern hemisphere and always goes to the left in the southern hemisphere. And when you're at the equator, there's very little effect. And when you're at one of the poles, there's the most effect. So side to side, it's more the higher or lower your latitude is, and it's always the same direction, regardless of which way you're shooting. The vertical component, it's the most when you're shooting east high, and the most when you're shooting west low. And depending on where you are with your latitude, it has a change. And this one's opposite of the vertical effect or the horizontal effect. It is most at the equator and least at the poles. So all that being said, I think the reason people like this, Jason, because it sounds really cool, is they can stand there at a range and like spout off about how cool this is, and that they're worried about it. So again, can you see why this doesn't matter maybe to you learning to shoot long range?
Yeah, especially when we're talking inches.
Yeah.
I mean,
So my favorite way to see if something matters is to test people. They say when I challenge them, it doesn't matter. Stop worrying about it. Like, oh, it matters. It matters. I go, all right, you're right. It matters. Do me a favor. You see that target over there? Exactly what cardinal direction is that target, and what latitude are you at right now? They go, oh, I don't. Well, let's see. And if like turn around and look, I'm like, okay then, because as you know, I like to shoot like tactical shooting, not target shooting. So military, police, environment. Here you are, that target's shooting at you. Shoot back right now. You need to shoot. And if you can't tell me exactly your latitude and exactly which direction that target is, oh, and by the way, there's another target way over there. Start shooting over there now. What cardinal direction is that? Do the math. And they stumble. Every single time I've said that, they say, oh, well, that's about north. That's And I answer, exactly. Even if it did matter, you can't tell me right now even what direction that is precisely. Now, could you figure that out? Sure. I'm not trying to say it doesn't matter at all. I'm just trying to say that with the guys that seem the most worried about it, and even after they've shot, like we're standing there on the line after just engaging targets, and they're telling me that it's the Coriolis effect. Whenever I ask them that, they can't answer, which makes me say, so maybe you should just worry about trying to hit the target and not do the Coriolis effect right now and get there someday. Hey, Chris LaValle's back. Welcome back, Chris. He said, boom, Coriolis sounds fancy, but in actual calculation it isn't much at all. People ask me about this so much they're dumbfounded when I tell them I don't even calculate it in war. There you go, Chris. Don't even calculate it in war. So, yeah, exactly. I mean, guys, who freaking cares about it? So anyway, Will Perez says, nice haircut. Who's he talking to? Oh, well. So, man, does that explain that?
yes.
All right.
And
sorry for going that deep on it.
I'm nowhere near that level. I'm at the point of being happy to hit the target. I'm not even at a level of worrying about spin drift yet. So,
right. And
there
I
you
would
go.
worry about spin drift more than Coriolis because at least it happens every single time no matter where I'm at.
Right.
So, yeah. So have you heard the new groundbreaking news in our firearms industry that was apparently officially broken tonight, even though we all knew it was coming, and they kind of teased it last night? And this manufacturer says it is the greatest advance in the pump-action shotgun in our lifetime.
I did actually.
What is it?
Is it with the removable mags? Is that where you're headed with this?
Yeah. Remington does the 870 now detachable magazines.
Yeah.
It is. I forget the phrase they used, but it was like the greatest advancement to the pump-action shotgun in our lifetime. I don't know about that, but especially because other manufacturers have been doing it before. Yeah. That was my first thing.
It's so easy to load a shotgun. I mean, when we go quail hunting, I can literally just throw them in while I'm walking.
Yeah, so I actually think it's kind of cool. So I don't mean to be a complete jerk about it. I think it's a cool idea, and I'm glad they did it. I just think it's funny to say, here we go, greatest leap forward in your pump-action shotgun in your lifetime, is what it says. Except for the fact that other manufacturers have already had exactly that. I can't think of the name right now. It starts with an A, I think. Makes a adapter, or they make a shotgun based off the 870 that actually is a lot cleaner than the Remington version. I'll have to look it up and put it in the show notes. But their version, their receiver, is actually milled to have the magazine well in the receiver. So it's like all one piece. It's like even a little flared as a mag well and everything. Have you seen the picture of the Remington one?
No. Well, I know.
It's
I
just
saw
like
the advertised one, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bolt-on thing. You know what I'm talking about? It's
Right.
like a bolt-on external piece. Where this other company, man, I can't believe I can't think of the name. Is it Acme? Something like that. It's got a spade. Maybe it's Ace. I don't know. The point is theirs, they actually made the receiver purpose-built to it, and it doesn't look as bad of like a monstrosity of like some bolt-on external parts. Now, the good news about it being bolt-on external parts is maybe there's a chance that it's backwards compatible. Because that's what it looks like. When you're buying something from the factory, I don't like seeing something that looks like it was just bolted onto the gun and called a new model. right? I mean, some manufacturers are guilty of that. Remington's one of them. They come out with a purple 870 or a purple Remington 700. They call it a new model, but so do other manufacturers. So to have it bolt on like that looks a little ugly, but man, that'd be awesome if it's backwards convertible. But I like the idea of a detachable magazine pump action shotgun. So again, I won't crap on the idea that much. It's actually kind of cool. The biggest problem with the shotgun is the magazine capacity. I think a shotgun is an amazing weapon, but in order to have a bunch of capacity, you have to have a long barrel. You want to get a short barrel so the shotgun's maneuverable. You are directly impacting your magazine's capacity the shorter the barrel you get, which is a problem. And yeah, shotguns are actually pretty fast to load. Just go to a shooting competition and watch people load them. I think I'm even kind of fast. I'm not. I watch videos of me shooting 3-gun matches. I'm nowhere near some of these guys that are doing it really fast. But you know what's even faster than that? Just dropping in a new magazine. That's much, much faster. Now, I think it's cool, but I wish they put the detachable magazines on the semi-autos. Because if you're going for speed, pump action's not your thing, right? So I'm one of those guys that thinks the pump action shotgun is a beautiful firearm because of its simplicity. So I'm not one of those guys that likes a red dot on an 870, for example. I think an 870 needs a bead or maybe iron sights. There's just something about the pure form and function of an 870 that doesn't need to be monkeyed with and get like, you know, the AR-15 style stocks and stuff like that. I think the simplicity is the key there. So I'm not quite so sure about the detachable magazine on the pump. Now, the detachable magazine on a semi-auto that's reliable, oh man, you have a devastating weapon there. That would be a really cool system. Now, the other issue I have is the magazines. So the feedback I've been getting from magazines is that they don't feed like a normal magazine, or they don't load like a normal magazine. You apparently don't push down on the previous shell, then slide the next shell underneath the feed lips. Instead, you actually push straight down on the top, and you like snap through the feed lips. And the feed lips are up high, and they look like little spring steel to the back, like they kind of pop away. Either it's genius on Remington's part, or it's going to be the part that fails immediately. So I have no idea. I need to get one to check it out. So the only reason I'm kind of poo-pooing on the idea is because it was the greatest advancement in your lifetime that somebody else has already done. It's like, you're not exactly the greatest advancement. But Black Aces, there you go. Thanks, Michael. I was, at least the spade or the ace I was getting right. I was getting the name wrong. Black Aces makes it. So yeah, they already make one. But it's cool that Remington's doing it. I think it's good for them. I'm glad they're trying something like that out. I think I would want to put one on my little TAC-14, Jason. You know, that little, you know, kind of pistol-gripped, tiny shotgun. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So again, the limitation of that is the capacity, right? Because you can't have a high-capacity shotgun when you shorten the barrel. And that's just always been the dilemma. You either have a super long competition shotgun with high capacity, or you have a short tactical barreled shotgun with no capacity. So kudos to Remington for getting that on there. Maybe take away a couple points in the stylistic of it being bolt-on. Unless it's backwards compatible, that would be amazing. And it looks like they're making their own magazines, and I'm really interested. So you guys tell me, when you've tried those magazines out, I'm going to get one to try out. It's either going to be the most novel way they did it with those very extended independent feed lips on that magazine that you actually push the shells straight down and through, or it's going to be a failure point. But either way, I thought that was some exciting new news. Are you going to try one out, Jason? If I get one and send it to you, will you try it out?
Yeah, I'll try it out. I'm kind of old school when it comes to a shotgun. I like the simplicity of it, but I'll definitely try one.
Yeah, so I think, believe it or not, I mean, the Magpul furniture is nice, but for an 870, I think some of the coolest looking stuff is like a wood stock. Wood stock and a wood forend on a pump action shotgun is actually kind of cool. I've been wanting to build a short barreled shotgun, which I can easily because I'm an FFL. You should be too. I want to do a short barreled shotgun blued with wood. I think that would look really, really slick.
And I actually did that with a single shot we did one time. We had chopped it down, legal of course. It wasn't as low as it could go, but stripped it down and did a kind of like a whitewash bluing to it, so it looked like that swirly blue to it, and modified the wood handle and stained it a different stain color, and yeah, it was awesome looking.
That's awesome. That's great. Great, man. So I'll check it out. I'll give you guys some feedback. And man, I tell you what, for next week, that, again, quote fingers 80%, because there's no such real legal term, The 80% Glock that I'm building, I'll have a full build list. I'll go out and abuse it and see if it works in the first place, and then I'll start to kind of abuse it. The slide I went with, Jason, you'll be interested in. It's a Brownell slide. I don't know if they're making it or not, or if they're having it outsourced. But it has all the features I want, and it's cheap as can be. It has front serrations on it that aren't all the way forward on the slide. It has the front serrations closer back to the ejection port, which I think is where they belong. Because if you put them all the way to the front, I mean, if you're going to grab a slide, you're either going to grab it with your support hand thumb facing back. You're going to pinch over the top and grab it. Or you're going to grab it with your support hand thumb facing forward, but it's just going to be to kind of peek into the chamber. And either way, I want to grab the pistol slide right forward to the ejection port. I don't want to grab it way out at the tip. And so these Brownell slide has the serrations that match the factory Glock serrations right there just in front of the ejection port, which is really cool. And I got one already milled for an RMR. So I need to check the price because apparently I was way off on the price on all those triggers I just sent you. Everybody, I sent Jason some triggers for some Geisley triggers for some AR builds, and sent his Glock to his FFL because he doesn't have his FFL yet.
Not yet.
And I sent him the invoice, and he about had a heart attack because we misunderstood each other on which triggers he wanted. I thought he wanted the SSAEs, those premium ones. So sorry, man. But
that's all right.
So I'm way off on prices, but I'll check. But I think it's like $200 for a complete slide. That's barely more than it would cost to have yours, milled for an RMR. So if this thing works out, I'm just going to recommend, Jason, you get one of these for your Glock 19 because now you don't have to mill your slide, and you could actually have one slide dedicated to a red dot, another slide dedicated to your iron sights, and just swap them out whenever you want to swap it out. That'd be the easiest thing to go.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'll check it out and see if it actually works. It's a little more squared off, which I think looks cool. I have no idea how that's going to work with holsters, but I'll give you feedback. So. All right, man. I think I've rambled plenty enough. Anything else you want to cover before we call tonight?
No, I think we're good. Like I said, I'm hoping to be able to show off something next weekend too. So fingers crossed for me. Hopefully it's not a disaster, but so far so good.
Well, good, man. I'm excited to see it. A few questions trying to tend to on Facebook before we jump off. Someone asked, Wyatt asked, can't find a definite answer. Is there a suppressor you can use on your 308-700 and your AR-15? Yes, there actually is. You can use most 308 silencers on 5.56, and believe it or not, you're not really sacrificing much on sound quality. Why? Yes, there's a larger hole in the baffles in the end cap, so you would think that more sound would maybe get through because more gases are coming through. But the 308 cans generally have more volume, more space inside. So believe it or not, it's actually kind of a wash on the sound, and I've actually heard some 308 cans that might even sound quieter than a 5.56 can. The idea here, though, Wyatt, is you just need to decide whether you want a direct thread or whether you want a quick detach. If you get a quick detach, you just need to make sure that the same mount can be fit on both your 700 and your AR-15. Your silencer can go back and forth. If you're going to do a direct thread, you're going to need an adapter. So you can go to someone like Tornado Technologies. There's a company out there that just makes adapters. They'll make it so it's 1/2 by 28 on the inside and 5/8 by 24 on the outside, and that'll allow you to screw it on your AR-15 and then screw your 308 can on the outside. So I would say probably go a quick detach. May not be as accurate as you want on your 700, but allow you to get a lot of use out of that one silencer. So, all right, I hope that helps, Wyatt. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the comments. Jason, thank you as always for coming here. And I promise to have a story figured out for you guys next time. All right, so we can share some more. And Jason, you try and do the same. Figure out some kind of story from the Kleckner boys growing up that explains to people where we got into shooting or being crazy outdoors. So.
All right, I'll do it.
Cool, man. Talk to you next week. Everybody take care. See you soon.